Hello and welcome to TaleTalk English. Today's story is emotional, heartfelt, and full of love, betrayal, heartbreak, and the journey to healing. It will also help you improve your English listening and vocabulary through simple conversations and real-life emotions. As you listen, try to imagine every scene, every expression, and every feeling. This is the story of a woman who discovered that the man she trusted most had betrayed her, but instead of letting heartbreak define her, she found the courage to choose herself and begin again. My name is Emma. I am 32 years old. I work as a librarian in a quiet town. Every morning, I open the library before the sun is fully up. I enjoy the smell of books and the peaceful sound of people reading. My life has never been exciting, but it has always been calm. I liked that. People often said I was kind. I believed everyone deserved patience and respect. I smiled easily. I listened carefully. I believed that love should feel safe. I thought that if two people truly cared for each other, they would always tell the truth. Looking back now, I know I was wrong about one thing. Love cannot survive without honesty. Everything changed one spring afternoon. The town was preparing for its yearly book festival. Many volunteers came to help decorate the streets and carry boxes of books. That was the first time I met Henry. He was tall, friendly, and always smiling. He carried 3 heavy boxes at once and laughed when I told him he was trying too hard. "I just wanted to impress the librarian," he said with a grin. I laughed. "Then you should have carried 4. He laughed even louder. That simple conversation stayed in my mind long after the festival ended. The next day, he returned to the library. "I forgot to borrow a book yesterday," he said. I smiled. "I think you forgot on purpose." "Maybe." He borrowed a mystery novel, but before leaving, he asked if I wanted to have coffee after work. I hesitated for only a second. "All right." That evening, we sat in a small cafe near the river. We talked for almost 3 hours. We spoke about books, music, childhood memories, and places we wanted to visit one day. Before we left, he looked at me and said quietly, "I haven't enjoyed talking to someone like this in a long time." I felt the same. After that, we met almost every weekend. Sometimes we walked through the park, sometimes we ate ice cream by the lake, sometimes we simply sat on a bench and watched people walk by. Being with Henry felt easy. He remembered small things. He remembered that I liked cinnamon in my coffee. He remembered my birthday without using his phone. He even remembered the name of my favorite childhood teacher. Those little things made me believe he truly cared. 3 months later, he brought me a small flower. "I know roses are beautiful," he said, "but I think wildflowers are more honest." I smiled. "Why?" "Because they grow without pretending to be anything else." His words touched my heart, not because they were perfect, because they felt sincere. Our relationship grew stronger. My parents liked him immediately. My father said, "He looks you in the eyes when he speaks. That's a good sign." My mother smiled and whispered, "I haven't seen you this happy in years." I believed I had found the person I would grow old with. After 8 months together, Henry invited me to the hill outside town. The sunset painted the sky with orange and pink colors. We stood quietly for a few minutes. Then he reached into his pocket. He held out a small ring. "Emma," he said softly, "life feels better when you're beside me. Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. Our wedding was simple. We invited close family and a few friends. My best friend, Olivia, helped me choose my dress. "It doesn't need to be expensive," she said. "It only needs to make you feel like yourself." She was right. I wore a simple white dress with small flowers around the sleeves. When Henry saw me, he smiled so warmly that my nervousness disappeared. "You look beautiful," he whispered. For the first year, our marriage felt peaceful. Every morning we ate breakfast together. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work. Every Friday we watched old movies. Every Sunday we cooked dinner together. Sometimes we danced in the kitchen while waiting for the pasta to cook. Those small moments became my favorite memories. I thought life would always stay that way. But little changes often begin so quietly that we don't notice them. The first change was small. Henry stopped eating breakfast with me. "I'm running late," he said. Then he started coming home later than usual. "Work is busy." I believed him. Everyone gets busy sometimes. I didn't ask many questions. Weeks passed. He laughed less. He smiled less. Sometimes he came home and walked straight to the bedroom without saying hello. I told myself he was simply tired. One evening, I cooked his favorite meal, roasted chicken with potatoes. I lit 2 candles on the table. I wanted us to have a quiet dinner together. When he finally arrived, it was almost 10 o'clock. "I'm sorry," I said. "The food is cold now, but I can warm it." He looked at the table. "I already ate." He walked into the living room and turned on the television. That was all. No thank you, no apology. I sat alone at the table. The candles slowly burned lower. For the first time, our house didn't feel like home. The next morning, Olivia visited me. "You look tired," she said. "I didn't sleep well. Is everything okay between you and Henry?" I forced a smile. "He's just busy." She looked at me carefully but didn't argue. Instead, she hugged me before leaving. "Call me if you ever need me." A few days later, I noticed another change. Henry carried his phone everywhere, even into the bathroom, even into the garden. Whenever it made a sound, he picked it up immediately. One evening, while he was taking a shower, his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to read it, but the screen was facing me. One message appeared: "I can't stop thinking about yesterday." There was no name, only a number. My stomach felt heavy. When Henry came out, I asked calmly, "Who sent you that message?" He looked at the phone. His face changed. He quickly picked it up. "Nobody." It didn't sound like nobody. He sighed. "Emma, you're imagining things." "I'm only asking." "Then stop asking." His voice was colder than I had ever heard before. That night, I lay awake beside him. He fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling until morning. Questions filled my mind. Was I worrying for nothing? Or was my heart trying to tell me something my eyes refused to see? The following weekend, Henry said he needed to travel for work. He packed a small bag. "I'll be back tomorrow night." I smiled. "Drive safely." He kissed my cheek, but the kiss felt different, quick, empty, like something people do out of habit. After he left, I began cleaning the house. I wasn't searching for anything. Cleaning always helped me think. While folding laundry, a hotel receipt fell from one of his jacket pockets. I looked at it. The hotel wasn't in the city where he said he was working. It was almost 2 hours away. My hands started shaking. I sat on the floor holding the paper. For several minutes, I couldn't move. I wanted there to be a simple explanation. I wanted to believe there had been a mistake. But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered something I didn't want to hear. Sometimes the hardest truth arrives long before we are ready to accept it. I kept staring at the hotel receipt. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped it. I wanted to throw it away and pretend I had never seen it, but something inside me said I could not ignore it anymore. I folded the receipt and placed it on the kitchen table. Then I made myself a cup of tea. Usually, tea helped me feel calm. This time, it did nothing. I looked out the window and watched people walking through the street. They laughed and talked together while my heart felt heavier every minute. That evening, Olivia came to visit. The moment she saw my face, she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked gently. I handed her the receipt without saying a word. She looked at it for a few seconds. "Did Henry explain this?" I slowly shook my head. "He doesn't know I found it." Olivia sat beside me. "Emma, you deserve the truth." I looked down at my hands. "I'm afraid of the truth." She took my hand. "I know, but living with lies hurts even more." Her words stayed in my mind after she left. The next evening, Henry returned home. He smiled as he walked through the door. "Hi." I tried to smile back. "How was your trip?" "It was fine. Just meetings all day." He placed his bag on the floor and went to wash his hands. I followed him into the kitchen. "I found something while cleaning." He turned toward me. "What?" I placed the hotel receipt on the counter. His smile disappeared. For several seconds, he said nothing. Finally, he sighed. "I can explain." I waited. "The meeting changed locations." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't think it mattered." "It matters to me." He rubbed his forehead. "Emma, you're making this into a bigger problem than it is." I looked into his eyes. "Are you telling me the whole truth?" He looked away. That was my answer. For the first time since we met, he could not look me in the eyes. That hurt more than any words. The following days were quiet. Too quiet. We spoke only about small things. "Did you buy milk?" "Your mail came today." "I'm leaving for work." Our marriage had become a list of simple sentences. Nothing more. One Friday afternoon, I left work early because the library closed for repairs. As I walked toward my car, I saw Henry across the street. He wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him. She was laughing. He gently touched her shoulder, the same gentle touch he once used with me. I froze. Neither of them saw me. They walked into a small restaurant together. I stood there for several minutes. I felt like the world had stopped moving. My chest hurt so much that it became difficult to breathe. I wanted to run inside and ask questions. Instead, I quietly turned around and walked away. When I arrived home, I sat in silence. Hours passed before Henry came back. He looked surprised to see me sitting in the living room. "You're home early." "I saw you today." His face became still. "You weren't alone." He closed the front door slowly. "You followed me?" "I didn't have to." He remained silent. I stood up. "Who is she?" He sighed deeply. "Her name is Emma." The room suddenly felt smaller. "How long?" He didn't answer. "How long, Henry?" "A few months." Every word felt like a knife. "A few months?" "I'm sorry." Those were the first honest words he had spoken in a long time, but they came too late. I looked at him. "Do you love her?" He stayed quiet. His silence answered the question. Tears filled my eyes. "And what about me?" He looked tired. "I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed softly. "You already did." He sat down on the sofa. "I didn't plan for this." "You planned every lie." He lowered his head. "I know." I felt strangely calm. Maybe because my heart had already guessed the truth long before my mind accepted it. "I trusted you." "I know." "I built my future around you." "I know." "You promised me forever." He covered his face with his hands. "I know." Those two words meant nothing now. That night, I slept in the guest room. Neither of us spoke again. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I looked around the room. The house felt unfamiliar. It was still the same house, the same walls, the same furniture, but it no longer felt like a place where love lived. I packed one small suitcase, only the things I truly needed: a few clothes, my favorite books, family photographs. The small wildflower Henry had once pressed inside a book was still there. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I gently closed the book. Some memories are beautiful, but they cannot change the truth. Before leaving, I wrote a short note. I hope one day you understand that trust is more valuable than promises. I placed my wedding ring beside it. Then I quietly walked out the front door. Olivia opened her door before I even knocked. She looked at my suitcase. Without saying anything, she hugged me tightly. This time, I didn't hold back my tears. I failed, I whispered. She shook her head. No, my marriage is over. Yes, so I failed. Olivia looked directly at me. Emma, a marriage can fail without the people inside it failing. I had never thought about it that way. She helped me carry my suitcase inside. For the next few days, she asked for nothing. She simply gave me space. Some mornings we drank coffee together without speaking. Some evenings we watched old movies. Her quiet kindness helped my heart rest. One afternoon, she smiled and said, "Let's go somewhere." I don't feel like it. I know, but we're going anyway. She drove us to a botanical garden outside town. Flowers covered every path. Children laughed as they ran through the grass. Older couples walked hand in hand. At first, seeing happy people made me sad. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly woman smiled at me. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I smiled back. Yes. It was only one word, but it was the first real smile I had given anyone in weeks. As Olivia and I walked slowly through the garden, she looked at me. "There it is." "What?" "Your smile." I didn't even notice. That's how healing begins. I looked around. The flowers had not changed my life. The sunshine had not erased my pain. But for one small moment, my heart felt lighter. I realized something important. Leaving Henry had broken my old life, but staying with him had broken me. For the first time since everything fell apart, I believed that maybe, just maybe, a new beginning was waiting for me. The next Monday, I returned to work at the library. I felt nervous as I unlocked the front door. It was the first time I had been back since I left Henry. I wondered if everyone would notice that something had changed. The library was quiet, just as I remembered. Sunlight came through the tall windows and covered the wooden floor. I took a deep breath. "One step at a time," I whispered to myself. A few minutes later, the first visitors arrived. An elderly man returned 2 history books. A mother helped her little son choose a story about animals. A teenage girl asked me to recommend a novel. Life continued. It felt strange. My own world had fallen apart, but the world around me kept moving. During lunch, my manager sat beside me. "I've missed you." "I've missed being here." She smiled kindly. "You don't have to tell me anything. I just want you to know we're happy you're back." "Thank you." Those simple words meant more than she probably knew. That evening, I walked home instead of taking the bus. The fresh air helped me think. For weeks, I had only thought about what I had lost. Now I wanted to think about what I could still build. When I arrived at Olivia's apartment, she was cooking dinner. "It smells wonderful," I said. She laughed. "I hope it tastes wonderful, too." As we ate, she asked, "Have you heard from Henry?" I nodded. "He sent me a message this morning." "What did it say?" "Can we please talk?" "Did you answer?" "No." Olivia smiled. "You don't owe him another chance just because he finally wants to explain." I knew she was right. Some conversations come too late. A few days later, I visited the small cafe near the town square. It was a peaceful place with wooden tables and soft music. I ordered tea and opened a book. As I started reading, someone stopped beside my table. "Excuse me," a gentle voice said. "Is this seat taken?" I looked up. A man about my age stood there holding a notebook and a cup of coffee. "No," I replied. "Go ahead." "Thank you." He sat down and opened his notebook. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he looked up and smiled. "I've seen you at the library." I smiled politely. "I work there." "I thought so." "My name is Emma." "I'm Lucas." We shook hands. "I'm sorry if I'm interrupting," he said. "I come here every Thursday to write." "Are you a writer?" He laughed. "I'm trying to become one." "What do you write?" "Mostly short stories." "What kind?" "The kind that remind people not to give up." I looked at him for a moment. "I think people need stories like that." "So do I." We talked for almost an hour, not about love, not about broken hearts. We talked about books, travel, music, and childhood dreams. When it was time to leave, Lucas stood up. "It was nice meeting you." "You too." "I'll probably be here next Thursday." "So will I." As I walked home, I realized something. For the first time in months, I had enjoyed talking to someone without feeling afraid. It wasn't romance, it was simply peace. The following weekend, my parents invited me for dinner. My mother hugged me tightly when I arrived. "You look better." "I feel a little better." My father poured tea and smiled. "I've been waiting to hear you say that." After dinner, we sat in the garden. The evening air was cool. Birds sang from the trees. My father looked at me. "When I was young," he began, "I lost a job I loved." "I didn't know that." "I thought my life was over." "What happened?" "I found a better life because I had to start again." He smiled gently. "Sometimes the worst door closing helps us find the right one." I thought about his words all the way home. Maybe healing wasn't about forgetting. Maybe it was about growing beyond the pain. Over the next few weeks, I slowly created a new routine. Every morning, I walked before work. Every evening, I wrote in a journal. At first, I only wrote a few sentences. Soon, I filled entire pages. I wrote about sadness. I wrote about hope. I wrote about the woman I wanted to become. One afternoon, Lucas visited the library. He carried 3 books to the desk. "You recommended these. Did you enjoy them?" "I loved every one." "I'm glad." He smiled. "I was wondering." "Yes?" "Would you like to have coffee after your shift?" For a moment, I became quiet. Months earlier, I would have said yes immediately. Now, I thought carefully. Finally, I smiled. "As friends." He nodded. "As friends." That evening, we sat outside the cafe. The sun was beginning to set. Lucas stirred his coffee slowly. "You know," he said, "you always seem calm." I laughed softly. "You should have met me a few months ago." "We all carry stories people can't see." "That's true." He didn't ask me to explain. He didn't ask personal questions. He simply respected my silence. I appreciated that more than he knew. As we prepared to leave, he said, "I hope today made you smile." "It did." "Good," he smiled. "I think everyone deserves more days like this." As I walked back to Olivia's apartment, I looked up at the evening sky. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about Henry. I wasn't wondering where he was. I wasn't asking why he lied. Instead, I was thinking about tomorrow, about my students at the reading club, about the book I wanted to finish, about the flowers I wanted to plant on my balcony when I found my own apartment. My future no longer felt empty. It felt unwritten, and that gave me hope. A few days later, my phone rang. The screen showed Henry's name. I stared at it. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. A moment later, a message appeared. "I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I hope one day you can forgive me." I read the message once. Then I quietly deleted it. Not because I hated him, not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally understood something important. Forgiveness does not always require another conversation. Sometimes it simply means choosing not to carry the pain anymore. I put my phone away and smiled. Outside, the evening breeze moved gently through the trees. For the first time since my marriage ended, my heart felt truly free. 3 months passed. Life did not become perfect overnight, but it became peaceful. I found a small apartment only 10 minutes from the library. It was not large, but it was bright. Every morning, sunlight came through the kitchen window. I bought a small table for the balcony and placed 2 flower pots beside it. The first flowers I planted were yellow daisies. They reminded me that even simple things could bring happiness. The day I moved in, Olivia helped me carry the last box of stairs. She looked around the apartment and smiled. "It feels like you." I laughed. "What does that mean?" "It feels warm, it feels calm, it feels honest." I looked around. She was right. There were books on the shelves, family photos on the walls, and a soft blue blanket on the sofa. Everything in the apartment was there because I chose it. For the first time in a long while, I truly felt at home. One Saturday morning, Lucas knocked on my door. He was holding a small paper bag. "I brought breakfast," he said. "You didn't have to." "I know." I invited him inside. Inside the bag were 2 fresh croissants and my favorite cinnamon rolls. "You remembered," I said with a smile. "You mentioned it once." His answer surprised me. He had listened. We ate breakfast on the balcony while the town slowly woke up. People walked their dogs, children rode their bicycles, birds sang from the trees. It was a quiet morning, the kind of morning I had always wanted. Lucas looked at the flowers. "They're growing well." "So am I replied. He smiled. "I was hoping you would say that." After breakfast, we walked through the town park. The leaves moved gently in the wind. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence was comfortable. Finally, Lucas asked, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you still think about Henry?" I took a deep breath. "Sometimes." "Does it still hurt?" "Not the same way." He nodded. "I don't miss him anymore." "What do you miss?" I thought for a moment. "I miss the woman I was before I stopped believing in myself." Lucas smiled gently. "I think she's standing beside me now." His words touched my heart, not because they were romantic, because they were true. A few weeks later, I received an official letter. It was from my lawyer. My divorce was complete. I held the paper in my hands for several minutes. I expected to cry. I expected to feel angry. Instead, I felt peaceful. One chapter of my life had ended. Another had already begun. That evening, I visited my parents. My mother made my favorite soup. After dinner, my father raised his cup of tea. "To new beginnings," he said. We all smiled. To new beginnings. As I drove home, I realized something. For months, I had measured my life by what I had lost. Now I was beginning to measure it by what I had gained. I had gained confidence. I had gained peace. I had gained friends who truly cared about me. Most importantly, I had found myself again. One afternoon at the library, a young woman came to the front desk. She looked nervous. She borrowed a book about starting over after difficult times. Before leaving, she looked at me and asked, "Do you think people can really begin again?" I smiled. "Yes." She looked surprised. "You sound very sure." "I am." She thanked me and left. I watched her walk through the front door. I hoped she would find the same peace I had found. Later that week, Lucas invited me to the same hill where we often watched the sunset. We sat on a wooden bench. The sky slowly turned orange and pink. "It never gets old," he said. "No." We watched the sunset in silence. Then Lucas turned toward me. "I know you've been healing." "I have." "I also know you're not looking for someone to complete your life." I smiled. "That's true." He took a slow breath. "I don't want to rescue you." I looked at him. "I don't need rescuing." "I know." He smiled warmly. "I just like to walk beside you if you'll let me." His words made my eyes fill with tears, not because they reminded me of the past, because they respected my future. I reached for his hand. I'd like that. He gently held my hand. There were no promises, no dramatic speeches, no perfect ending, just two people choosing kindness. And somehow, that was enough. Months later, life became beautifully ordinary. I worked at the library. I spent weekends with my family. Olivia still visited every Friday evening. Lucas continued writing his book. Sometimes we walked together after work. Sometimes we read quietly without speaking. Love no longer felt exciting or confusing. It felt peaceful. One rainy afternoon, I found an old box while cleaning my closet. Inside was my wedding photograph. I looked at it for a long time. The woman in the picture looked happy. She believed every promise. She trusted with her whole heart. I smiled softly. "I don't blame you," I whispered. "You simply didn't know." I placed the photograph back into the box. Then I closed the lid. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I no longer needed to live there. That evening, I stood on my balcony with a warm cup of tea. Rain fell gently onto the streets below. The yellow daisies moved in the wind. Everything felt calm. Everything felt real. I smiled to myself. There was a time when I believed my life had ended because one person stopped loving me. Now I knew the truth. My life had not ended. It had finally begun. If someone ever asked me what love should feel like, I know my answer. Love should never make you feel invisible. Love should never make you question your worth. Love should never ask you to carry all the pain alone. Real love brings peace. Real love brings respect. Real love helps you become more yourself, not less. My name is Emma. I am 32 years old. I once stayed too long in a marriage that had become cold and empty. Leaving was the hardest decision I ever made. It was also the best one. I lost a husband, but I found my courage. I found my voice. And most importantly, I found myself. Do you think Emma made the right decision by leaving Henry? Why or why not? What would you have done if you found the hotel receipt and the messages on Henry's phone? Thank you again for spending your time here with me. Take care of yourself, keep practicing English every day, and see you next time in another Tale Talk English.